Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of our little tutorial park. Now in the last few episodes I showed you how to generate a map, how to create one. I also showed you how to make a nice looking park entrance, and after that I just built some shops and stalls in the park. Yeah, just basic buildings, but I think I did show you some cool techniques to build them. Now, what I want to focus on in this episode is a new ride in the park, the first ride actually, and I want to show you how to make your own shoestring merry-go-round. Now, everybody knows how to make a normal merry-go-round. You just plop it down like this, entrance and exit, and you're done. But yeah, if you want to have a merry-go-round that's a bit bigger, a bit more grand, and one that you can decorate better by yourself, then you should go make your own using a technique called shoestringing. Now, I've already made some videos that give a good introduction to what shoestringing actually is. Basically, what it boils down to is, for example, here you see a train. Now, all these this train consists of several vehicles, and when you do shoestringing you actually separate parts of the train. So one part of the train will be going around on a track that's usually underground, and there will be a part of the train that's visible that will be running on a track above ground. And the reason you do this is because with the track underground you can give it command, or you can build stuff like chain lifts or brakes on the track. And using that you can make the train above ground do things it normally would not be able to do. Now, to start, I will just start building a track above ground which our trains will run on. You can use any track for that. I'll just go with looping roller coaster. Doesn't really matter what you choose. Now, for this tutorial, I will for this merry-go-round, I will make a 4x4 merry-go-round. But for example, in class Action Mega Park, I built a 6x6 merry-go-round. So using this, you can also go bigger if you want to. Now, I think I'll build my merry-go-round in this little corner. Now, I also want to have a little queue in front of it. So I think I'll build it like this here. Alright, this is the track which the horse vehicles will run on. Now we also need a little piece of straight track to actually be able to get our vehicles onto the track. So I'll build a piece of straight track here as well. Alright, I will just give it a name. Alright, now that we have made this track, we also need the actual station for the ride, because the vehicles need to spawn somehow. So for that I'm going to build a new track. I typically use the steel wild mouse or the wooden wild mouse for that, just because they're easy to build and they have really tight turns. Clearance checks are disabled, by the way, so that's also why I was able to build this little piece of straight track here. I also built the curve right through it. Now, to build this station, I actually want the station of the ride to be here. So I'll disable clearance checks again, and I'll just build the station right here. You can also build the station somewhere else, but this will just be easy, an easy way to get the guests into the ride. I recommend always building the station on the same height as the height where you want the guests to enter the ride. For example, sometimes I make a Star Flyer ride or some other ride that's high up in the air. When I do that, I will still build the station on the ground, because that will help when guests have to enter or exit the ride. Okay, I will just build a little curve like this, a tight curve. And I'll build over this straight piece here with this straight piece. And now these tracks are merged. Now I will do one check with the tile inspector on over here. So now for these two straight pieces, we want the vehicles to go from this wild mouse track onto the looping coaster track. So then the looping coaster track has to be on the bottom. So here you can see 3 track pieces on this tile, and we need the straight track pieces. So here you can see some information about these track pieces here on this tile. A track piece with ID 0, that's always a straight track. You can also find it out by just selecting a track piece and then moving it up a bit. Then you can see this looping coaster straight track piece is moving up. And we need to have this looping coaster straight track piece below the still wild mouse straight track piece. So that's the case, and then we know they're gonna merge. Now, something else which we need to find out is how many horses will actually fit on this track. So I will enable a cheat now on this still wild mouse. So I'll show vehicles from other track types, and I'll disable vehicle limits because we need to have some more horses here. So over here you can see all the vehicles that we have enabled, and over here we find horses. And we'll just want 1 car. This actually shows the trains, but for a wild mouse coaster it shows cars here. But yeah, we want 1 train, and I'm not sure how many horses are going to fit there, so I'm just going to try it out. In order to actually be able to spawn the vehicles, we cannot have it in continuous circuit mode because it's not a continuous circuit. So we'll show all operating modes. Well, I typically just use powered launch without passing station. But now I cannot change the launch speed, so then I also have to unlock operating limits. And then we can change the launch speeds a bit. Not too high, but we just want it to actually leave the station. Now, if we try to run this right now, we run into another problem. Well, first, the entrance and exit are not actually built. But the vehicles of the train are now all bunched up. So that's why behind the actual ride, we'll quickly make the entrance and exit invisible. Behind the actual station of the ride, you'll have to build some track in order to be able to spawn all the vehicles. So I will just do that now quickly. Now, how you build this track doesn't really matter. I like to use a little slope first, just to help these trains move out of the station a bit quicker. But you can also just make a straight track behind it. That's not really an issue. Okay, if I test the ride now, all the vehicles should move onto this looping coaster track. Alright, I think we have just about the right amount of horses. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe there's 1 too many. Going to test with 12 horses now. Alright, I think this is the right amount of horses. We have 1 horse too many here, but this is a shoestring, so we're going to split the train, and the first horse of the track is going to go underground on a control track. And all of the other horses, I think they fit nicely onto this circle. So if we would subtract 1 horse here, I think we would have a nice amount. So I'm gonna go with 12 cars for this train. Okay, the next thing we want to do is to build a control track underground. So I'm just going to quickly remove this tight turn here, and I'm going to start building underground. Now I'll just use the cutaway view here. Alright, now we are underground here. Alright, I typically just build the station for the underground track right under the original station. You don't really have to do that, but if for some reason your underground track will also have any riders in the vehicle, guests would walk to a really weird spot when they are entering the ride. Alright, I've just built some track here so the train can get from this ride to the control track here. Now for the control track we also wanted to have a station, but this station doesn't actually need an entrance or an exit. So station is now below the original station. I will extend this one a little bit more. Alright, the control track, it controls how long this ride will be. So for these horses, car 1, it will be sent to this ride. And in the future, car 1 will be going around here on this control track. There will be a chain lift here pushing it forward. And when it reaches the station again, the entire train will stop. So car 1 will stop. And also all the horses that will be going around on this track will stop. So I will now build the control track. And basically how long this control track will be will determine how long the ride will take to complete. Now I will allow chain lifts on all track pieces. And that will allow me to also put chain lifts on this turn pieces. Okay, selecting the chain lift now, and I'm just going to make a nice and long track here. Okay, the control track is now completed, and I will just give a name quickly. Alright, I will rebuild this track piece here, the tight turn. And I will also rebuild this track piece that leads underground. I'll just lower the ground here a little bit so you can see there's actually two track pieces here on this little tile. Alright, we have an entrance and an exit here, so we would be able to run the ride now. Now, what we want to do for this ride, now that we have built it like this, is that we want car 1 of the vehicle, of the train, to move around on this track. So later on when the ride starts, this car 1 will determine how long the ride will take, and it will also pull the train forward using the chain lift that's on this track. Now I just realized I forgot one important step here, so we'll use the tile inspector again, and I'll just hold control and select this track piece. And here we also need to make sure that the merge is done correctly. So from this steel wild mouse, the vehicles have to go into the wooden wild mouse. So that means the wooden wild mouse over here has to be lower in the list. So here we have the track piece for the steel wild mouse. You can see it here when I raise and lower the track piece. Here we have the wooden wild mouse. The vehicles have to go from the steel wild mouse to the wooden wild mouse. So that means the wooden wild mouse has to be lower. Now they should merge correctly. So when a vehicle arrives from the steel wild mouse, it should move onto the wooden wild mouse track. If I wouldn't have done this, it would just fall off here and crash. Okay, I will now spawn in all the vehicles. And when the first vehicle has moved onto this slope, down onto this slope track piece, I will pause the game. And then in Tile Inspector, we will switch these track pieces around in the order. And then the rest of the vehicles should move to the other track. Okay, I will now spawn in the train. Right, you can see it has already started dipping down here. And the second vehicle is still in the station here. So I will now select this track piece over here. If I can find over, right, it's over here. So it's the one that's at height 59. And this curved track piece over here. These two track pieces are here on the same location. So if we switch them around, the rest of the trains should go onto the other track. Now I believe this one, this top here, is the curved track piece. So if I hold control and click it, you can see it selects this track piece. So I'll now move it below the other track piece. And as you can see, the other horses now move onto this infinitely looping section of track. And I will keep going around here until the car on the lower track reaches the station again. Now the train is still a little bit fast here because of the slope, but once the car reaches the station, I think it has reached it, and now it only moves forward because of the chain lift. So now it will move at 6 kilometers per hour because that's the chain lift speed. So yeah, that's our first shoestring. Okay, well, of course this ride still looks pretty bad, so now we'll have to make it look a little bit better. Now I'll make the entrance and exit visible again. I'm going to move the exit of the ride to right over here. We can do that with the tile inspector. So I'll hold Control, click the right exit. I'll copy the right exit and I'll just move it to over here. So copy and paste. I will rotate it. And then we have to press Make Usable button. And when we do that, this is now the right exit and this one no longer functions. So we can select this one and delete it. Now, and I will take this entrance, I'll copy it, and I'll paste it to over here. I'll select it, make usable, and I'll delete this one. Now I've moved the entrance of the ride to over here and the exit of the ride to over here. Now I'll make a little queue path. By the way, there's also a cheat here in the Park Cheats menu, allow using regular paths as queue, and then you can also use, for example, this brown path as a queue. So let's still use a different one than the regular path. Yeah, I quite like using these regular paths as queue. Okay, we can open the ride now, and our guests should be able to use this ride. By the way, there's also several color codes you can use in your ride name. Here I used Topaz, but there's quite a few more. I actually made a tutorial once in which I put all the colors you can use for your ride names. Yeah, I quite like making them look a little bit nicer with these color codes. Now, what I typically do is that I'll change this ride to the lift ride type. So for that, I'll use the cheat allow arbitrary ride type changes. Then I change the ride type to lift. So now the track is invisible, and changing it to lift also turns it into a transport ride. So guests that bump into the queue here will now always use this ride if it's as long as it's free. Alright, the ride still looks pretty bad. I will hide the entrance and exit again. And I will use some different track pieces to make this ride look a little bit nicer. Right, here's how I like to decorate my my shoestring merry-go-rounds. So typically I'll lower the ground below them a little bit. For these 4 edges, I'll just raise the corners a little bit, but this inside corner I'll lower it. Actually, I'll just do the same for all these pieces here. Right, so now we have a little dip in the landscape here. And in this dip, I want to have some wooden coaster track. Now, I'll enable a cheat again, allow building track at invalid heights. Now, for this cheat, I recommend only using it for as long as you need it, and then after that disable it again. Because if you don't, you may end up building rides at heights where you don't want them. The reason I'm using this cheat is because I want to have this wooden coaster track just a little bit below this steeplechase coaster track. So normally you would only be able to build at the same height or 2 units lower. Now we can also build at heights in between. But like I said, when you're done with this cheat, you should really turn it off again. Now I will just build one straight piece of track over here. That's because, well, you will see later why I do it. But yeah, building right below the looping coaster track or the steeplechase coaster track to which I changed it. Right, and this will be the floor of the merry-go-round. And now this, I'll take this straight track piece that I built over here and copy it. Then I'll take the copied track piece and I'm going to move it up a bit. And this will be the roof for the merry-go-round. And now we can delete the straight track pieces. Now there's many ways you can build this roof. This is just a simple way that I like to use to build these. Now what I also like to do here in the middle is to put some of these curved walls. Yeah, there's many ways you can do that. I think I'll just stack a few of these in different colors. I think that will look pretty cool. By the way, if you're wondering how I'm building like this, I'm hovering over this curved block piece here. Now I'm holding control, so then I can build at the same height. So then I place over here. And while still holding control, and also holding shift. And then it allows me to build over here. And just keep raising the piece up. So for example, if I hover over this track piece here, now I hold control. At the same height, and then if I now also hold shift, it will allow me to go up here at this height. That's really useful when building larger structures. Okay, I will now recolor this wooden coaster track. For the roof, I typically also put some car ride track over the wooden coaster track, just to make it look a little bit more, covered. So I'll just hold control over this wooden coaster track. Now I also hold shift, and so I can raise the track a bit. And now the track is right over the wooden coaster track. Now, under this wooden coaster track, you still see some supports that are a little bit ugly. Now, there's many ways to remove supports. When you're not building above water, you can just select this wooden track piece and you could move it under surface here in this order. And now you can see the support has disappeared. Something which is probably easier nowadays is to just take one of these base blocks. And if you have enabled the cheat for allow special color schemes, then we now also have an invisible color, like this one. And if we do that, so we need to build here below here. And now there's an invisible block below here, which blocks the supports for the wooden coaster. So these invisible blocks, they really help with hiding supports. You could see that was really easy to just make these supports disappear by putting invisible blocks below them. Alright, and there you have it. Here's a really simple merry-go-round. But of course you can make them much more elaborate. I will show a different 6x6 carousel that I made in Class Action Mega Park. Okay, here you can see the carousel that I made for Class Action Mega Park. You can see it's 6x6. Now this one's a bit special because it also has a track running around in the inner circle. And on top of that, it actually goes pretty fast. And it goes in 2 directions. So definitely not your standard merry-go-round. At some point it also switches direction. And that's because I actually didn't use a chain lift for the bottom track. But yeah, I put a powered vehicle in front, and I put in shuttle mode. So that's, and the control track is also a bit more difficult. Now, I'm not going to explain how to make it in this video, because then the video would be a little bit too long. But this just goes to show that with shoestringing, a lot is possible. Now, I also put some of these support columns all around the track, and together I think that makes this ride look pretty nice. So this also shows that you can do quite a lot with the roof if you want to make it look nicer. Okay, and here's the merry-go-round that I made in Imagination Mega Park. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about this park yet, just taking a little break from it. Wait, here I actually made a merry-go-round with 2 levels. So here we have some vehicles here on the bottom track and some vehicles here on the top track. This isn't too much different from how I made the merry-go-round in the tutorial park. I just had to change some vehicles out to different vehicles using the right vehicle editor plugin. And I just had to split off some trains to a track that's above the bottom track. But besides that, it's all still the same kind of ride. Okay, and here you can see the merry-go-round that I made in Duckling Mega Park. I think it's almost exactly the same as I made it in the tutorial park. Now, here's a version of the carousel that I built in Whitewater Park, but beautiful. And here for the middle section, I actually put one of these spiral slides in the middle. I think that also works pretty well as the central column for the ride. So that's definitely also something that you could try. Right, I'm just going to quickly spam some foliage around it, try to make it look a little bit nicer, integrate it a little bit. And that will probably be all the building I'm going to do. Alright, to finish off this episode, I think I'll put another entertainer. We can probably put an entertainer right here on the top. So let's quickly build a path to there. Okay, now with the peep editor, I will wait for the elephant to do its little dance. And then I will freeze him in the middle of its dance. And I think that will be a nice pose. Like this. I think that will be a nice pose for here on top of the roof. Now with the X position and Y position, I can move it to where I want. This is the Peep Editor plugin made by Manticore, by the way. It's a really useful tool for these kind of things. Now we'll just move its position to where I want it to be. And then I can just hide these path pieces. Alright, and we'll name this entertainer after one of my patrons. So, thanks a lot for the support, Daxel. I really appreciate it. You'll now have a spot on top of the merry-go-round. Okay, since we're hiring staff members, let's also put a few handymen. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed watching me build this merry-go-round. If you ever want to build one of these yourself, I hope this tutorial allows you to do so. And of course, it may look daunting at first, but when you do this a few times, it gets a lot easier, trust me. And maybe I'll also name these handymen after some of the commenters on this video. Alright, hope you enjoyed watching this video, hope you learned something. If you learned something from this video, please consider giving this video a like. And I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.